my friend.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome, everybody, to another week of Case Files with Kat
And Ashley. And
Sid the Kid.
you may recognize her from our 150th episode voicemail.
Our end of episode voicemail.
Yeah.
It's me in the flesh.
Oh my gosh,
I'm
we're so
excited.
Are you so excited?
We're
I'm
excited.
geeked up.
We're glad someone still enjoys our podcast.
Like, yes.
According to Sarah, no one likes us. So.
According to Sarah, it is a surprise that we have fans.
I'm the millionth listener, I'll tell you that.
Whoa.
You know what we're like the balloons and the confetti. You know, that whole thing. Jason, insert air horn now. Thank you.
He's not even going to edit that out, and he's not going to put an air horn.
It's just going to be blank.
But you know what? He was a fucking wizard today. He did lots of things, and I was just like, see, you're a wizard. Don't
Wizard!
You're a wizard, Ari.
I'm here for this, yes.
Okay, so we're all drinking something new. So, Ashley, why don't you start?
I am drinking from Galveston Bay Brewing, which is, it's a blueberry blonde. And
Have you had this?
I have had this before. I haven't had it any long time though. It is one of my favorite blueberry beers.
Yeah.
It's a lighter beer. But the blueberry flavor comes through really well, and I really like it. Sometimes with the blueberry beers, it's either too sweet or you don't really get the blueberry taste.
Right.
It's kind of like an aftertaste, but this is really, really good, and I really like it. It's really, really good on like hot days outside.
Oh yeah. Well, guess what? It's 1,000 degrees.
Yes, I know, but it's really, really good. I really like it. It's one of my favorites.
But is it really, really good?
It's really, really good. And then
Okay.
the other beer I have, should I get to it, which I probably will since I'm not talking, is the Galveston Tiki Wheat from Galveston Island Brewing, which is another one of my favorites.
So we're just doing the whole
Galveston
doing
theme
Galveston
today.
themed. Okay, how about you?
I got the Shiner Tex Hex, and it's a Desert Mirage Hazy IPA. And
So
it's pretty nice.
Everyone
I
has
like
pretty
it.
cool can art.
It's like hoppy.
This
Here for
one
this.
is actually one of my favorites. They have two
I'm here for
versions
this.
of the Tex Hex. That one and then the Brewhouse Brew or something. And both of those, I'm like, way to go, Shiner, with your first attempt at an IPA.
Right.
Oh.
It's a lady with smoking eyes on
I
here
mean,
too. Come
super.
on, y'all.
Mine has like a half naked mermaid.
Okay, mermaid season. We'd love to see that.
I know. Okay, so mine doesn't have a mermaid or a lady with smoky eyes. It's just beautiful color. It's
Ooh.
very Mal from The Descendant. It's her
Yes.
hair color,
That's
you
it.
know, the
Oh my God.
turquoise.
Yes. Yes.
And the purple. It's beautiful. It looks like bubbles. It's very effervescent, is what it reminds me of.
Oh.
If like Alka-Seltzer was purple and blue.
Well, what is it?
Trippy
It is,
outfit.
sorry. This is Equal Parts Brewing, thanks to Miss Ashley, who brought that for me. It's a hazy double IPA. It's
Oh.
delicious. It
Here
is
for
not
it.
hoppy. It's very, okay, so it says the hops that are used are the Amarillo, Citra, and Galaxy, 8.2%, but it doesn't taste like it. It is very
Interesting.
citrusy.
They're the only
Oh.
ones that have an IPA that I will drink.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
'cause I know
it's
you don't like
delicious.
it.
And there's no like bite
Yeah.
after. It's just super smooth. This could be an all-day
Yeah.
beer if it wasn't a double IPA.
I like
But it's called Dick Jones.
Yes, it's one of their
So-
most popular.
I'm
love
drinking
Equal
Dick
Parts.
Jones. Yeah. So this is my first foray into Equal Parts.
Oh.
I'm liking it. I'm here for
I'm
it.
here for it too.
I'm gonna have to go
I
visit.
don't think I've ever had a bad beer there. Like they rotate them out pretty regularly, but they have cans to go. They,
I mean, delicious.
really great beers. I mean,
Well, thank
honestly,
you.
really great.
Well,
And they just bought Brash. Brewery
Oh,
in
did
Houston,
they?
And they're going to bring back the original
Wow.
brewer and reopen.
they?
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
so he's coming back. So the beers they used to have that were real good will be good again.
It's
And
gonna be
yeah,
back.
so it's closed right now, but it will be reopened.
Brash. Are they the ones that did Pussy Wagon?
Yes.
That's one of my favorites.
Yes.
Cali Green.
So
Hoppy.
Oh man.
yeah, they're bringing back the very original brewer, and he's going to come back and he's going to kind of run things and
Oh my gosh.
bring back a lot of the original people.
That was one of the first Houston breweries that I was like, I'm here for the breweries. Like
Yeah.
that was well,
Yes.
I had Pussy Wagon in California, and I was like,
I like the name.
what? I mean,
Yeah.
Come on now.
I'm gonna hitch onto that.
It's going to still be called Brash for anyone curious. It's just they've bought it and
That's
they're going to bring back the original people and kinda
I'm
let
here
them
for that. That's awesome. What
return
great
it. Yeah.
news. Yay,
Yes.
party.
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't have a question of the week for what?
So she can see
The what?
The
Oh yeah,
what?
I'm sorry. Did it move?
I
Can you see the?
Yeah, I
Okay,
can see
here
it.
we go. That stays in.
We're cooking.
The we are cooking. Okay. So I didn't have a question of the week for
Yes.
listeners, but I decided that like the one that I did want to ask because it's based off the story is either one of you can go first, but when you were 10, what is the worst trouble that you got in?
I instantly know. So if you need a moment, I can go.
Get it.
Get
I'm
it.
here for
When
it.
I was 10, my grandmother pissed me off. I don't remember what it was. We lived on a farm, okay?
Starting off
We lived
strong.
on a farm, okay? We lived on the farm. She made me mad. I don't know. I stomped out of the house. I was real mad. So I went back in the house and I grabbed all of her scarves. And I walked outside. And my grandfather had this barrel of burning leaves. And I just threw the scarves into
I
this
remember.
burning barrel. And then I kind of started feeling guilty about it. So I pulled them out and dropped them on the ground. And it set all these leaves on fire and almost burnt the barn down. And my grandfather had to like quickly put it out.
Got carried.
I got in so much trouble for almost burning down the farm because I was really mad and I burnt all her scarves. None of the scarves survived. But that is 1,000% the worst thing I did when I was 10.
Oh my gosh.
I was so mad.
Wow.
Did you
That's
you're
great.
like
I remember-
I can't be in trouble because I was born in that barn, like Jesus. That's what you should say. I mean, that's like your
I knew I was mad and I don't know I really don't remember what she did to make me so mad. Probably like didn't give me a snack or something. Something so stupid, you know?
Gummies.
And I just, or maybe she would give me like an extra Flintstone. I was like hooked on those things as a child. It's a bad addiction. And it was hard to break. And yeah. And so anyways, I took all of her scarves, went right outside, threw them in the burning leaves in the barrel.
And you're still alive to tell the tale.
Right.
Oh my God,
Shout out
right?
to grandparents for control.
And we lived on a farm, so they could have buried me. No one would have noticed. You know what I'm saying? We didn't have neighbors.
Would have been like
The
a
pig
toy
ate her,
box.
who knows?
This is why we do this podcast.
We're
Okay.
burning stuff down.
And here's the thing, I don't have an answer. I don't
I
don't have an answer.
probably have like 50 answers I could give, but that was
I'm
just
sure
the first thing.
Jason could answer one for me. I don't know. Yeah. I was a perfect
I'm a bad
child.
person.
No.
Okay.
Okay,
I never
set.
did anything. I think the worst thing I did
I can
was-
verify this.
I like
by
how
asking
y'all don't
your mom.
even, I love how you guys have to really think about it and like try to dig deep and find something. And I'm over here like instantly got it.
I got it. I know what it is. I was like, okay. I
Mhm.
think the worst thing I did was shoplift. I was at the dollar store with my grandma, and I literally was in there, and I was like, man, I don't have no money. Like, grab all of this. And I literally was like grabbing stuff, and I'll be like, Gran, can I get the keys to the car? And she was like, yeah. And I would go in and empty my pockets and then come back. So then when we got in the car, I was like, Gran, look at these cards I got. She was like, what? Like, I'm not gonna say everything she said, but let's just say I was in very bad trouble for that.
Whoa. So
So
that
sticky
reminded me.
fingers.
That reminded me. I went to LA, but I wasn't 10. I must have been like 11 or 12. I was a little bit older.
It's like
But she
close
was 10.
enough.
Yeah, so close enough. But I went to LA and we went to go visit some of my mom's extended family. And it was like East LA and, things like that. And so, gosh, I can't remember how old I was. Anyway, but we went into a store and it was like, just grab something that you want. And all the kids did it. And I grabbed myself a pen and paper, like a notepad. That's what I got
amateurs.
myself. How fucking sad is that? I'm like,
Harriet the
I
spy
have
over here.
Here I am burning down a farm and you guys are just shoplifting.
Sticky fingers.
So, but then the guilt set in and I went and returned it.
You returned it.
Because I didn't feel good about it.
You're like, can't do this.
I couldn't do it. I was like, no, I'm going to take it back.
My grandma just didn't. She just drove off. She was like, we're leaving. I was like, all right,
Discount.
Grand.
We got a discount.
Did you get in trouble? Like,
No.
who took you back?
No, I went back.
You just went back.
Just went back.
You're a strong woman, because I would have just
Put it back. I didn't tell them I took it.
Oh.
I wouldn't put it back. I just kind of set it there. And,
I feel that.
You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't like, hey, by the way, I shoplifted. And
You said they'll
I was
never
just
know.
curious.
no, I just
I
like,
didn't know how guilty you
I
felt.
just walked in, put it on the candy, and walked back out. You know, like I didn't.
What?
Yeah.
Retail workers are screaming right now that you just placed it anywhere.
Listen. I could have walked out with that $4
We
worth
would've
of
rather didn't know.
$2
From
merchandise.
a former retailer, we do not give a shit.
Yeah,
we don't
well,
get paid enough to give a
If I
shit.
knew then what I know now, I
Yeah, if you would have took it.
I would have kept my Mead notebook, split cover notebook,
I
my
would have clapped for
blue
you.
pen. Get it, girl.
Still more.
Give it to the man. Okay. Thanks for your answers. Awesome. Okay, so tonight's story was one that I hadn't heard about before, which is kind of
Okay.
surprising. Like,
Yeah, right? I'm like, what haven't y'all
I
done?
wasn't a child when this happened. Like I was a teen. And so like I would have thought that I would have heard about this. So so when I had COVID after I got back from Belize, I started to watch Netflix. Well, I finished Netflix.
Yes.
I finished it. I just finished. I watched it all.
And I need it now.
I
Shoot it in my
I
veins.
finished the internet. So I asked my TV to show me true crime, and I landed on the Crackle app.
Okay.
Have you heard of Crackle?
Yes, I've heard of Crackle,
Nope.
just never used it.
Nope. No need.
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it. I don't know that I'll use it again, but here we are. Okay. So I was downloading the app and I watched this 48-minute documentary. It's a very short, it's like an episode, right? The story takes place in England in 1993, my sophomore year of high school.
Where
And-
thought of.
Oh my God, get the fuck out of my house.
All right.
I think I was 5.
Oh my God, both of you.
Oh.
All right. And so this takes place in England, and it was like the biggest story. It captured like the whole country. And Glenn, you're going to hear me tell this story. I'm probably going to butcher
I
the
cannot wait.
Shout out to Glenn, because I always hear that name. So yes.
He loves to correct the way we say things,
Oh yeah, I
He likes to
remember.
make fun of us, yeah.
Yes.
specifically the way I say things.
We're
But
gonna
now
butcher it
Kat's
all
doing
together.
it, so I'm excited.
No, he made fun of my apocalypticism.
Oh.
Take that, Glenn.
I have not learned how to say any of the words you made fun of me for, so.
Isle of Wight. All right. So anyway, I'm going to butcher them. Have fun, Glenn. Drink your beer on the other side of the pond. All right.
Heck yeah.
So tonight I am going to tell you the tale of two 10-year-old little boys named John Venables and Robert Thompson, and the heinous crime of murdering a 2-year-old named James Bulger.
All right.
Mhm.
That's pretty top 10.
Just that's what I'm saying. That sentence alone, what?
No, I was just gonna say it's all right. I mean, it just goes downhill from
It
here.
goes-
so like,
that-
if you
that's-
would like to exit now.
Yeah, guys. Hey.
Trigger warning. Anyone that would like to exit now.
warning.
I mean, 10-year-olds?
At
That would make
10,
that makes
no.
anybody do like the double like what? So they were the youngest people to be convicted of murder in the UK since William York, who was also 10 in 1748.
Okay.
William York was sentenced to death for killing a 5-year-old that lived with him in a poorhouse, but because he was so young, they kept postponing his death sentence. They're like, he's too young.
Wait
He's
till
too
he's
young.
18.
He's too young.
Like-
He's too young. They eventually just pardoned him because he was so young. They couldn't bring themselves, I guess.
They should have did that in the first place.
I
I mean,
guess.
that's what I'm saying. Like, you're just gonna keep him alive for 8 years to just kill him like that? I mean,
I mean,
Because
that's-
he's 10.
Like-
I don't know.
we'll get into that talk later. But yes, they were going to keep. Yes, this was the idea. And I yes. So remember that you just asked that. Remember that you just asked that later.
Not going to, but I'll
Okay,
try.
but I'm going to remind you that you asked that.
Great.
Okay, so anyway, back to John and Robert. Okay. And poor baby James. Okay, I'll start with telling you a little bit about John and Robert before getting into their crime, Avi. Okay, so Robert Thompson and John Venables were both born in August of 1982, but John was born on the 13th and Robert was born 10 days later. So right off the bat, Robert Thompson had, it seems to have had the worst upbringing of the two boys. Robert, along with his 6 other siblings.
6?
Yeah.
You're busy, okay.
And his, that's just too many. And their mother were all mercilessly beaten and apparently molested by their father. So when Robert was 4, his oldest brother was placed in Child Protective Services after confessing at school that he was being abused by his dad.
I'll be Kevin.
Yes, we don't have Kevin here, so she's filling in.
Olivia had a sleepover, and Kevin is now missing.
We should do an episode on Where is Kevin?
Me randomly adding that in.
You don't want it, Ed. Okay. So it is now known that the abuse was present within the family home and that Robert would also suffer at the hands of his father. Robert Sr. also targeted his wife. So she, in turn, was being beaten, and she would turn her anger onto her children. So
Nice.
I know. On one occasion, it was reported that Anne had hit one of her kids with a stick and a belt. Oof.
Yikes.
So home life was not made any easier when Anne took to alcohol as means of escape. No judgment, but I mean,
As we sip the beers that we have in front of us.
I'm just saying. Anyway, but she did try to commit suicide numerous times by taking huge amounts of pills. And it was when Robert was 6 that his father finally left home, and Anne kind of just couldn't handle having all of those kids by herself. So it was like it really took a turn.
Oh, lady.
She was absolutely incapable of watching over those 7 kids, right? And so the oldest of the 6 brothers became the protector. And I kind of say that in quotes.
Fair enough.
And kind of in quotes.
Yeah,
Although Robert looked up to his brother was known within the area for taking the younger children out to rob stores.
Okay, so they're following our path. Got it.
Another of Robert's brothers was a known arsonist.
Okay, they're following us. What's going on?
I was 10.
And there's some after us, there's some after Ashley. But the arsonist was also suspected of sexually abusing young kids, and another of his older brothers had threatened his teacher with violence and was expelled from school. So everybody is just having a tough time. The Thompson brothers began to crumble without the guidance from either of their parents, and before long, the violence was the only technique they knew. And when that's all you're taught,
yeah, that's all you know.
That's all you know.
It's like, oh, what else can I do?
Violence. And we always say that, Ashley, like they didn't stand a chance. They didn't stand a chance. This person didn't stand a chance.
So this was inevitable.
I mean, I'm just shocked that the mother did not lose custody of all of the kids. Based on that alone, like
just on that, yeah,
like
what
is
is
suspended, the 4-year-old is taken away, all that kind of
stuff.
Yeah,
I would have been like, all of y'all are leaving.
Please. Before long, one of Robert's brothers decided to leave home, and he was unable to cope with the abuse and the violence, and so he was placed in voluntary care while the others decided to stay with their mom. But I'm sure there's so much, and I get that. I get that feeling.
It's like Stockholm syndrome.
It's obligation. You know, that feeling of like, I can't leave my mom.
Yeah.
Even though she doesn't treat me right, but at least that's my mom. You want so badly for your kids to love you, but not like that.
No.
Damn.
No.
Okay, so so before long, the violence had escalated within the children's nature, and it got to the point that whenever a crime was committed in the area of Liverpool, one of the brothers was involved.
Oh, so they were just like, oh, call their home. They know. It's them.
Which kind of brings up, that's the question that gets brought up later. Like, why didn't they just go directly to this kid's house? And I think that, so anyway, so by the time Robert was around 8 years old, he he'd begun to copy his older brothers and would frequently abuse his younger brother, Ryan. But Robert and Ryan shared a strange bond. It was reported that the pair would lie in bed with each other and suck each other's thumbs. So it was like they were a comfort to one another, but then at the same time, Robert would abuse him and would mistreat him as well. They would venture out for the day, and then Robert would just abandon Ryan and run back home, like just leave him there and like peace. So then Ryan would have to find his way home. Like, yeah, no, but there's nobody paying attention to them either. So
that's what's wild. Like, where are the adults? The ones
there wasn't
drunk and fucked up and not paying attention. Sorry, I'm making a lost poster for Kevin.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so although many reports claim that Robert was a challenging child, he would do anything for his mother. So he was still a mama's boy, and he always tried to be a good son. He'd help out in the kitchen. He'd babysit Ryan, however imperfect that was. His teachers would report that Robert rarely turned up to school, but when he did, he was shy and quiet. Other students remember him being manipulative and gaining what he wanted, because I guess he was kind of nice at school, but he was rarely there.
Okay, what in the world, teachers? Like, I know if I even missed a class, it would be a phone call made. Like,
they would leave voice messages on the answering machine. They would arrest parents. They would arrest parents for your kids not showing up.
But that's in the United States. Maybe that wasn't in place there. You know, like, yeah.
That makes me ask questions like, what are their laws like over there?
Kids are like, I need to go there. I don't know, Glenn. What's the truth, right? What's the truth?
If you have kids listening, please let them go into a different room. No ideas.
Like, we have no ideas. All right. And your kids should not be listening. Okay. So this was the time then. Now he's 10, and now he meets his friend John Venables. But can I just say, like, all those boys in one house?
It probably smelled like corn chips, I'm going to be honest.
That's just a lot of dirty socks.
Yeah, that's what it was like. It's got to be a lot going on. A lot of just must and
grossness. Okay, so let's talk about John. John's life was not perfect, but it was a lot easier than Robert's. I mean, automatically, there's not 7 brothers, and there's just all right. It was not in any way perfect, but not quite as bad. So his parents eventually became estranged, but there was no sign of abuse from his dad, like the way that Robert did. He did have 2 other siblings who I read were differently abled and required a lot of attention. His older brother had a cleft palate, which in turn led to him having communication issues. And so because there were communication issues, that would make him start to have go kind of have a tantrum because he wasn't being understood.
Gotcha.
And then it would cause a big to do. And so they had to sort of walk on eggshells with him so that wouldn't happen. And so he ended up having to go, what is that sound? So then he ended up having to go to a special school, and his parents were giving him more attention than they were to John, and so then there's that. So then his younger sister also had to attend a special school because she was also differently abled.
Gotcha.
So, but John went into the mainstream school, but because John wasn't getting as much attention from his parents, he was lashing out. He starts lashing out, which to me is like, okay, temper tantrum, baby.
Like, relax. You know what's going on. You see what's going on.
But that wasn't enough. He didn't care. He didn't care that right. I hear you. I have no sympathy for this guy. Zero.
Like, suck it up.
So he reported that he'd felt ignored by his parents. But come on.
Really now.
And so he started to feel resentful, and John would copy his brother's tantrums, but that didn't work. I know, because it wouldn't.
He said, I guess if he's getting attention, let me try what he's doing.
I know.
Like, no.
So, but at the same time, that kind of stress is hard on any relationship. So John's parents are struggling and fighting, and his dad would leave and then come back, and then he'd leave and then he'd
They
come
come
back, and then he finally just left. That kind of stuff is
back and forth, back and forth.
that's instability that affects a family, that affects
Absolutely.
boys too. Like,
Because they're looking at their dad like, oh, this is an example of what a man is. So let's do
exactly, and so it's just horrible. Anyway, so at that point, so he's lacking structure of a solid family. His mom, she was suffering from depression and would kind of break down. The quote from this particular story said she was prone to hysterics and had a history of clinical depression. So every time her husband left, it would just be all hell would break loose in the house. And she was just unable as well to cope with the children at that point.
Yeah, like, her brain's not there.
Right.
Boy.
So John was also the victim of bullying due to he had kind of squinty eyes when he got mad. So the kids would like poke at him just to see him have those squinty eyes.
That
and then
makes
they
me
would
so
make
mad. As a squinty eye owner.
Listen, hello. So he, of course, just started to act out like horribly in school. He would act out so badly that they would move him from school to school because he was acting so he would like get up, throw shit around, start screaming, and like rip shit off the walls. Like
No.
everybody's artwork and like posters and shit. Like he was just like nobody likes me. And then he would just go like, and like he would just start.
I need the kids to have more dedication. Punch one of your classmates out if that's what's happening.
Seriously.
I'm saying if you acted like that where I went to school, they would immediately remove you from the classroom and call your parents and then CPS. But I know it's different over there. I'm just saying, like, to me, it's so crazy that they're getting away with so much.
Right. That's the problem.
Like, the police know they're bad. The teachers know they're bad. Like, there's clearly a problem at home and, like, nobody's helping them. Right? Like, no one's helping the kids at all.
You're absolutely right. Like, everyone's kind of
behavior.
It is. It's learned behavior. And no one's going like, what is happening?
Yeah.
What is happening at home?
That
someone needs to step in. But this is also 1993. So I don't know. Things are different. I don't know. So it got so bad that he actually took a ruler and tried to choke another kid.
With the ruler?
So, with a ruler. And this is all in school. This is before he meets Robert.
Yo.
So he's like 8, 9, 10. He's moved to another school. And then he meets Robert.
Oh, a delicious combination.
And
folks.
the gates of hell open up and go.
Quite literally.
The Antichrist.
I'm seeing Little Mermaid, and it really should be like, oh. Scratchy got to come in.
Well, we've officially lost everybody.
Maybe, except for those people who like death metal. I don't know.
I'm here for it.
Okay, so when they met, they realized, hey, dude, we have a lot in common. You like to tear shit up? I like to tear shit up. You'd like to be a bully? I like to be a bully.
Speak my language.
You like stealing shit? I like stealing shit. You like, I mean, they both liked horror movies.
Listen, that's
neither here nor there, because here we are making a true crime podcast.
I love a good film right there.
Who's to say one of us isn't a serial killer? I'm just saying. Didn't you say you walk by? Starting out.
Are you spying on me? I'm just kidding.
I'm making a poster.
So yes. So both of them were into horror movies, like gory horror movies.
That one of us may be a serial killer or her story?
Both.
I just wanted to clarify.
Okay. You know both.
Okay. It's good to have a healthy amount of fear around us.
You walk by 36 serial killers in your life, or murderers, 36 murderers in your life on average. Okay, it's true. So anyway, they were like, okay, well, you like to skip school and I like to skip school. Literally, Robert went to school 1/2 of the amount of days he was supposed to. 50%. I hear you.
Like, if y'all could see me.
I see the face.
I'm like, how? they would call Lolita Williams and be like, welcome, this is your student from Clear Lake High School. They have missed 10 classes. I must be like, are you serious? I was there.
They would say, your student is absent. They do that in elementary school. They do that in elementary school.
Then we have to explain ourselves. Where were you?
Where were you? I was there. Just hiding. Okay. Anyway, all right. Half of the school days he was supposed to. So that's a lot. You know, like I was telling this to Ashley before. I've skipped school once. You know when I skip school? Senior skip day.
You have to. It's like tradition.
But that's when they tell you to skip school.
I skipped school a lot, but I would get home before my grandparents and just erase the messages.
So you were getting voicemails?
Like on the actual answering machine, because this was back before cell phones were a thing.
Okay, so sorry kids, you can't use this.
And then I don't know what I did in high school. I think I just didn't care. I just did it.
I think I did erase one. Now that you say that, yeah. I was like, sorry, Mom, if you're listening to this.
She doesn's listen.
This is
the day she is.
She will. And she'll be like, oh, so you.
I love you, Lo. Okay. Don't let her get in trouble. She's got a master's degree.
Please.
You did okay. Okay. So now we know more about the little turd bucket. We're ready to go. All right, let's talk about the crime. And I will say this now. I am going to be talking about the death of a child at the hands of children. Saying that sentence is hard. Everything else I say after this is going to be just as hard to listen to. So if you want to turn off now, I totally understand. And we'll see you next week. We'll judge you just a little bit. But if you are still listening, here we go. And thanks for sticking it out, because Ashley and Sid are the ones that have to sit in this room.
And it's almost like I've heard this twice.
And hear this. But you haven't. It's the first time.
This is the very first time.
Okay, shut up. All right. You have to listen to me.
I'm listening. I'm listening. I'm being productive.
I'm being productive. Okay. Okay, so on February 12th, 1993, John and Robert skipped school. Shocker.
Yeah, what's new?
Skipped school to travel to the New Strand Shopping Center in Bootle. Bootle. I don't know how else to say it. Bootle.
Go kid and caboodle.
It's Bootle. The boys were skipping school and had so this is near Liverpool. All right, just like north of Liverpool, just north. It's like a suburb. Yes. The boys were skipping school, had traveled to the shopping center to waste the day, and it was reported that while they were there, they decided to also do some shoplifting. So they shoplifted some candy and batteries and some blue paint.
I love how none of the adults in this situation saw these two 10-year-olds just walking around unsupervised and thought they should be in school, and just did nothing.
All right. To each his own.
Man, they must be way different in the UK, because here in America, if you are out during school hours and you are of school age,
they will call the cops.
They call the cops and they stop you.
Just by yourself. Yeah, if you're just two kids looking kind of toe up from the flow up, you know, they weren't.
I mean, I looked like an angel.
Nicely.
I still got in trouble.
You look like an angel.
You sound like Sarah right now. Do you not believe
death? Me? No, I'm kidding.
You remember how we were talking about your yard burning down because of the heat earlier?
Look out the
I need to step outside real quick. I'll be right back.
I also have a lot of scarves.
Well,
I do. A whole collection.
The night is young.
Where are they at?
I'm only on beer one.
My closet. Okay, so anyway, they were stealing batteries, candy, paint, blue paint, and some troll dolls. You know, as one does. I remember trolls.
I love troll dolls. I had a collection of them.
I know. They swiped pens, pencils, and a bunch of other shit. They just ended up throwing away. They got the high of stealing it, and then they would ditch everything. Like that was just their thing.
I'm surprised they didn't huff the paint or anything.
They were also picking on the old people there, so they would like poke them and run away.
See, this is where I'm like, okay, you're just walking around one thing, but now you're like attacking old people, and still no one does anything.
So
Like,
They're little
what in the
bastards.
hell? I know, but like, everyone sees them attacking elderly, and they're just like, oh, kids are just kids, boys are just boys. Like, I don't.
Not to the old people. Jesus.
It's one thing that they're just walking around because their parents could be somewhere in the mall. But like, you're now physically harming the elderly.
You're right.
Like, it just blows my mind.
Did they specifically target
red
them?
Yes.
flags? Just
That's
all
sick.
like all over the place. Red flags. Okay. So then John says, little shit. He says,
Like,
"Hey, let's get a kid. I haven't beaten one up in ages."
what?
Meanwhile, while all of this is going on, these two little shit turds running around the mall over there, Denise Bulger and her soon-to-be 3-year-old James were also shopping at the Strand. She said later that he was being just a typical 2-year-old, hyper, grabbing at things, running around. She was just having to be a little bit more patient with him. So now James was not just her little boy. He was also the rainbow baby. So And so the baby after a miscarriage, right? And so she felt like a little bit more protective of him. And his younger siblings now, they did a 60 Minutes interview and that'll be in the show notes they said that their mom was even more protective of them. And I could just imagine how helicopter parenty she ended up like having to be like, you will never be.
Yeah, like, I'm not
side.
turning my back. Y'all are chained.
I mean, I
me.
can't
You better
imagine what it would be
be-
like to lose a child. And then, like, I probably wouldn't let
just
mine
wait.
out of my sight. Yeah.
No.
Just wait. Because it happens like instantaneously, I'm telling you. Okay. So even now as adults, they have to text her. Like if they don't answer the phone, they're like, oh, we hear about it. You know,
I get it.
like they're adults, right? Okay. So anyway, Denise reported that around 3:40 p.m., she went into the butcher shop. The butcher shop was like in the mall, in the shopping center.
Okay.
She entered the shop, taking less than a minute to order her meat, then returned to where she saw James, and he was nowhere to be seen. She quickly ran for security staff and informed them that he was wearing this like blue coat, and it had a hood, and this mustard colored lining, this tracksuit bottoms, white sneakers, the whole thing. So of course, I know. So of course they quickly searched. They couldn't locate him. They looked at all the local shops. They didn't locate him. So then they put it over the like speaker, which was normal. I mean, that's what everyone does. Like,
Right.
if you've seen a child, or if, James, come find your mom, that kind of thing. So it was like, it's all over the intercom. After a while, there's been no movement. No one had found James. And so then they called the police. So here's where the timeline starts to get clear, because there's actually CCTV footage. There is footage in 1993.
I was gonna say,
Shockingly, there is footage.
grainy.
It's grainy as fuck.
I'm pretty sure they look.
It's like, but to
look
be
like
fair, a lot of the
Minecraft.
footage nowadays is still grainy, which blows my mind.
And
Yeah,
that's
you
one
would
of my
think.
biggest gripes. But I've asked Jason, I've had this conversation with Jason, and he says, where are you going to store all that information? You want to be able to store
This is
it
true.
someplace where everybody can, otherwise there's going to have to be huge servers for that amount of
Yeah.
clarity. And even now, like if we were recording, we'd have to dump
What's
it
the
after
point of
30
having
days.
a camera if you can't even make out what's actually happening on it?
They made out enough, and there was enough.
That is-
They
yeah.
made out enough, and there was enough CCTV footage in other places
Yeah.
where they could gauge height, they could all that kind of stuff. Anyway, no,
Sorry, it's a big pet peeve of mine is camera system.
me too,
Yeah.
because I get
Three.
especially with the Israel Keys story.
Yes.
Like there's so much. There's
Yeah.
like, but why?
Like,
Why
why?
wasn't it better? Why couldn't we see more? You
Yeah.
know, like it's a little tiny kiosk. We should anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. CCTV footage. Okay. Super grainy. Yes. But you can clearly see that there is a child who leaves a shop
Mhm.
and sort of stands outside of it. And we know that he was eating like Smartie candies. Like, so you can kind of see him standing there, like if there's something in his hand, you know that something is happening. There are 2 older boys. They guessed anywhere from 12 to 18 years old who were talking to him for just a few moments. And they took him by the hand and walked off with him.
These are some big kids. I'll just say that, because if they're looking 12 and 18,
You can tell he's short,
and they're tall.
they're tall, right?
Greatness.
And I don't think they probably expected 10-year-olds to like.
Because I surely didn't know.
They literally talked to him for just a few seconds when they walked away with him. I mean, I don't teach stranger danger about children.
That's the thing. It's
if I teach stranger danger, it's like if someone pulls up in a car and wants you to get in it.
stranger danger.
But
Yeah,
it's not a 10-year-old. It's gonna be, but
Can't
now
trust anybody.
But now it's gonna be that 10-year-old. Who are you? What do you want?
Who sent
Okay.
you?
Who sent you? So all of this was literally about 90 seconds. So she was in the store. She was paying for her meat, turned around, did not see him. Meanwhile, he's talking to these kids and he leaves. All in in a matter of less than 2 minutes. And the time they walked out of the mall was at 3:42. So at 3:40 she walks in, at 3:42 he walked out of the mall.
Blink of an eye.
The blink of an eye. What we later find out is that John and Robert had tried to do this to another 2-year-old at a different shop. A mom, I know. I know, Kevin. I know. A mom.
A 10-year-old probably took Kevin. I'm so upset right now.
9, but yes. A mom was shopping and her 3-year-old daughter and 2-year-old son were enticed away by 2 little boys. When the daughter was back with her mom asked her where her brother was. She said she was with the 2 little boys. So her mom walked out, saw her son, and the little boys were going, come on, come with us. And then they saw their mom. They saw the kid's mom. Oh, go back to your mom. Go back to your mom.
I would have called the police. First off,
that is how I
would have got on the telly.
Feel like I would have been like, it's one thing if like they were walking around actively looking, but for her to come up and find them,
no,
I wouldn't have believed it for a second. I know, like in the moment, you don't know. Like I'm not blaming the mom.
Right.
I'm just saying, like it just seems like I feel like that's so suspicious.
Right, like 2 kids, random.
So I know, and imagine if you were that mom though later to find out about whatever happened.
I would feel so guilty.
I would
be relieved, but I would feel guilty.
Relieved, but like, oh my God, I should have fucking said something.
Yeah.
That should have been. I should have stopped it.
Child.
I should have stopped it right then and there.
I can't imagine that kind of guilt.
And shame on her. And I'm glad her kid is safe, but that's kind of how I feel about that. Like that's fucked up. You obviously see that these 2 little boys were trying to take your kid
because the sister said they were trying.
Yes. Well, she's 3, but she was like they're with them.
Oh no.
Anyway, John had also mentioned in a later interview with police that it was their intention that day to take a child and to throw them in the path of a moving car to make it look like an accident. There are so many record scratches in this story.
Wait. Okay. What?
Okay. So the boys then led James on a 2.5-mile walk around Liverpool. They first led him to a canal where they picked James up and dropped him on his head down a ravine. So he ended up having like a bump and there's blood and there's there's an obvious marking and they were just kind of, it's a nasty bruise. Anyway, so after this, the boys joked about pushing James into the canal before deciding against this. And so they used the hood of his jacket to hide the shame. So many individuals, 38 in total, witnessed the young James with the 2 boys. Many later reported that the little boy had a bruise on his head and was crying, but they just assumed that the little boy was related to them and therefore did and said nothing.
Okay, but it doesn't matter if they're related. He's like crying and bleeding and has bruises. Why are you not concerned?
Like, that would have been the first thing. Is everything all right, little man? Like, it would have been the first thing on my brain.
It gets worse. However, as the three continued, 2 people challenged the boys about James. Well, more than 2 eventually, but the boys were quick to develop a story of how they were going to the police station after finding the boy alone.
I would have went with them as an adult.
Okay. I'm going to get to that. Although worried individuals had no reason to believe that the boys were doing anything different and sent them on their way.
How worried were they?
On one occasion, the boys were stopped by an elderly woman who questioned why the boys had walked from the Strand with the small James. They questioned why the boys had not taken him to the police station local to the Strand. A woman had offered to walk with the boys, however, she had her young child with her and didn't want to subject her to the lengthy walk to Walton Lane Police Station.
Girl, if you don't pick your baby up and just walk.
Another woman said, you know what? You should take them to the police station. It's up that way and to the right. And then they walked the other way. And she was like, I can't believe they didn't listen to what I said.
Wasn't the lady with her daughter? Did she ask a stranger to watch her
and
kid?
then there was like, yes. There was a lady with her daughter who said, do you want to watch my kid? And she's like, my dog doesn't like children.
First off,
why would you ask a stranger to watch your kid to take other strange kids
like, here, hold this
to a
real
police
quick.
department? Like, I'm not like trying to make light of the situation, but all of this is just so fucked up.
There was a witness who saw the boys kick James in the chest. And you know what she did? She closed her blinds.
Girl, you deserve whatever. If you're still living, honey, you deserve whatever happens to you. You deserve the day that you have. Just know
there
that.
were so many people. They were called the Liverpool 38. They were shunned and shamed in the press. But
they deserve it.
But they weren't
As
even.
they should.
But they knew that they were that part of that 38. Only they knew. There were no names except that they were on the stand. A lot of them did take the stand because, oh my God.
Do we have those names now?
I know.
I mean, my thing is like,
Can
I
we
get
prank
like
call them?
people not wanting to get involved in certain situations, but it's a 2-year-old child bleeding and crying with no parent.
But then they would
sight.
see him laughing. Some people saw him crying. Some people, I mean, there's just so many different, reactions.
I highly doubt he was laughing at any point in this.
They would play games with him so that he wouldn't. Yeah.
Up, I guess.
There were times when they
Bizarre.
had to pick him up, like one would hold him here and the other one like under his armpit. And then the other one would pick him up by the feet to make him cross the street because he was acting too ornery about it, like he was throwing a fit. And still nobody said anything. There were so many things. It's like, obviously this child does not belong. They got on the train and these boys were like, I can't believe my mom still has me watching this, my younger brother. I'm going to tell her I don't want to watch him anymore. And like they were role playing through this whole ordeal. Like they were just role playing the whole time. Okay, so they get sent to Walton Lane Police Station, but instead of going towards that, they go the other way towards the train track, and they carried him up to the train tracks. And here one of the boys threw the blue paint at James's face, into his eyes. After this, they kicked him and hit him with bricks and stones and a 22-pound iron bar that had been left at the side of the tracks. It was also reported that they had placed batteries into his mouth, and they believed that he was indeed sexually assaulted. His shoes, trousers, and underpants were removed. The pathologist reported that James's foreskin had been manipulated, and before leaving him, the 2 boys decided to place his body on the railway tracks and weighed his head down with bricks and stones. They said that would make it look more like an accident.
Like, wait, no. At 10?
At 10. So after they left, a train hit James's body and cut him in half.
Oh, at 10?
So at the same time that all of this was happening, the police were at the shopping center and they were so far behind. They were questioning Denise. They found and others about James. They found the CCTV footage. They saw that there were 2 little boys. They guessed between 12 and 18. They circulated the CCTV footage. They didn't know yet what had happened to him. They thought he couldn't be that far. They thought he had stayed in the center for all this time. Anyway, posters of the boys, what grainy footage they have, were all over Liverpool.
What surprises me is that the one boy's family was known, like the police said earlier in the story, like if something happened in town, they just knew it was that family.
Exactly.
And the fact that they did not go directly there just surprises me. And this, you get blamed for all kinds of stuff, but not a missing child. It just blows my mind.
You know, that's a good point. I don't know what their reasoning was.
I guess maybe because they thought they were older. Like older than 10, like
but
they
had
thought
older brothers. But he had older brothers, so yeah. So, so this happened on the 12th. On Sunday the 14th, so they had already been doing a manhunt of the canals and all those areas. A young boy had been playing on the tracks and noticed something nearby, and he at first assumed it was a dead animal, but realized later it was a kid. And he went home, told his parents, and then the police came. So
traumatized.
By now, the police concluded that this was an abduction turned murder, and James's body was removed from the scene while the police conducted the examination. The pathologist later determined that the injuries were so many and so severe that they actually couldn't pinpoint what was the cause of death.
Oh man, that makes me hurt.
And in the interview, like you hear him like, well, he wouldn't stay down. Why did you want him to stay down? Well, we wanted him to die, I guess. And it's like they just kept throwing things at him and kicking him. And like there were on your shoelaces, there's when there's not a hole, but like it's on the outside, it's like a triangle where your lace goes through, right? Like on a boot. They could match up the boot to the injuries on his cheek. So like that's how like they had that. I mean, it was that many bits and pieces, blood and all of that, but they were able to really put him there. Okay. So after a few days, the CCTV footage was gaining a lot of interest. They were having, they found more CCTV footage of them walking down the canal or by the canal where there was a wall, like a brick wall, where they're like, we know how tall that wall is. They're not that much taller than that wall. So they were just kind of over that wall. And so they knew that they were looking for smaller people. And then they had on the 17th of February, a woman walked into the police station and said she knew her neighbor's son was not at school that day. And his name was Robert Thompson and his friend was John Venables. So the police went to their homes and they were they were boys. They were little tiny boys. So here is, I'm going to play you now some of it's called Unforgiven, The Boys Who Killed a Child, the Jamie Bolger documentary that I saw on Crackle, but you can see this on YouTube.
The first thing I noticed about John is that he looked far younger than the 10 years that he was in actual fact. He looked like an 8-year-old, little cherubic, angelic-looking face, supported by his mum, who was a nice, polite person. Would never have dreamt that he could be capable of a crime like this.
Robert was just remarkably young. That would be the first thing that struck you. He was younger perhaps than anybody you'd ever seen in a custodial setting before, let alone the seriousness of the offence. He was just so small. He was clearly very vulnerable. that's the clearest memory I have of it, just seeing someone so small, so young, in amongst so many adults in such a difficult situation.
Gently, gently, police began the questioning, always bearing in mind they were dealing with 10-year-olds. In the second interview, Robert admitted they'd taken James, but blamed it all on his friend John. These are the actual sound tapes of the police interviews.
What time was that? When was that?
I don't know.
So what happened?
Don't know. He grabbed the baby's hand and just walked around the strand. And then he let him go loose then.
Did he?
When we were by the church, he let him go.
And you were with John then? You shook your head? You shook your head?
Yeah. I told him to take him back.
You did what?
Told him to take him back.
You told him to take
I
it back?
don't know.
All right,
Blame.
Bobby.
No, you're
Sorry,
not getting
Bobby.
all the blame. We're just asking your son. We're
Yeah,
trying to
well,
find
we
the truth.
usually always get the blame.
Wait a minute, Bobby. Listen. Just calm yourself down for a minute, okay? You all right?
Yeah.
It was like pulling teeth. Everything was coming slowly. And you had to have a lot of patience to interview a guy, you saw a young boy like that. You had to do everything slowly. Once you abstracted one tooth, yes, great. Forgot that. You knew that it was difficult to get the next step. Because everything was, during an interview, step by step by step. He'd lie, admit. Lie, admit. Lie, admit.
The other team was having an even harder time with John Venables. For the first 4 interviews, he lied. He was never even in the Strand. So halfway through the second day, police told him Robert had already admitted they were both there.
And suddenly there was silence, and he said, "Yes, we were in the Strand. But honestly, Mum, we never grabbed a kid, and there was the most terrible wailing, and he jumped out of his seat, very tactile boy, and he hugged the police officers, and he hugged his mum, and he was screaming and crying. We didn't harm a child, we never grabbed a kid, Mum." And that was the first, and I thought, oh my God, if this is the first of many breaches of the dam, we're going to be submerged.
He said that the two of you were in the Strand and that you saw the little boy.
We never.
Is that the God's honest truth?
God's honest truth, I'm telling you that we never. He was too scared. He was probably too scared.
And he said that you took him by the hand and led him out of the Strand shops.
We never. He's a liar.
Calm down. Oh my gosh.
Alright, come on, love. It's alright, come on, alright.
I never got the boy. I never killed him.
As a mother, it is so hard to hear children upset like that. It's like, oh, but then I'm like, no, fuck him.
Yeah, me
For
too.
me, I cannot believe how manipulative they are at 10 years old, because they knew that they had to lie. They knew they had to try to cover it up.
Right.
And they're like, I would think is that most 10-year-olds would just automatically break down and confess. But like they're like swearing on God and like all kinds of stuff. Like they knew to lie. And it's just
That's
crazy to me.
the scary part of it all. Like
That
they
really is. That's a
literally-
really good point.
the tears, all of that. They said, "Let me."
It seems so ungenuine when you think about how planned out it was. And like the fact that they knew they wanted to throw him in front of a car to make it look like an accident.
Exactly.
And now
They
they're
had a plan.
like,
And
now they're in an interview crying, saying they weren't even there. I mean, I don't know. It
It's
just,
BS.
No, that's
it's
true.
so hard for me to believe they are 10. Like they sound like children.
They
but,
sound
but
like
they-
children. Then you realize that
But the
it was all.
crime is just so insane to me.
Oh, right.
For a
Absolutely.
10-year, like the planning and everything.
So before long, the police could notice differences in the boys. John was hysterical, extremely scared throughout the questioning. He was probably the most manipulative. He burst into tears all the time. That's how he got out of like those uncomfortable questions. Like,
So I was like,
that's why, yeah, like it was all crocodile tears, right? He was the one expressing fear about going to prison compared to Robert. Robert was controlled. He was controlled a little bit more composed than John was.
That's almost scarier, like that he was composed.
And that's why the police thought that he was the ringleader. I actually think that John was.
I feel like John is always the one that wanted the attention because of what you said earlier. We're like his brother and sibling.
Yes.
And I feel like,
tantrums.
Yeah.
I really do think that John was the ringleader. I know that everybody's probably going to disagree with me, but I feel like John is the more manipulative because he's like, what? You know, he's the one that looked youngest. You know, exactly. So it took a lot. When Robert found out that the blood was found on his shoe, or found at the scene, Robert broke down into tears. Like, that's what broke him. Like, he was like, oh shit, I am in trouble.
Crazy.
It just went, yeah. And it wasn't long before John broke down and began talking. So he first mentioned that he had been in the area on that day, but did not venture to the shopping center. He stuck with the story, but Robert quickly argued that the two had entered together, had seen James, but only momentarily, but was able to describe him like that he had seen him all day. They were like, well,
see y'all on CCTV.
But you couldn't tell that it was them, you know. The police were confused as to how a 10-year-old could remember such detail about someone they only saw for like a second. But the Robert finally was the one who confirmed that he and John were the ones that had taken James. And Robert was adamant that John had held the hand of the young boy and walked for a while before abandoning him. So like that was his story. Like I told him to just leave him. And then he just left him. And so that then they don't know what happened to him after that. So like that was Robert's story. And then it became,
of course.
And then he confessed later that they that they did eventually admit to all the things. So, but it was Robert blaming John blaming Robert. Robert changed his story 5 times during his questioning, which probably made him look like the ringleader.
Yeah.
The one slip up that led police to know that something was being hidden was when John asked if you could get fingerprints off of skin.
I would have been over on that skin lickety split with some fingertips and all of that.
So they continued the questioning. Every time John would talk about James, his leg would begin to shake. So they knew like there was like all these little tells, which to me seems like he was the ringleader. And it wasn't until Friday, the 19th of February, that Robert finally confessed that the two boys had taken the young James to the train tracks again. On the same day, John confessed to his parents that what he had done when they were left alone by the police. And then they brought the police in, and then he confessed to the police as well. So it was because of all the evidence, obviously, the CCTV footage. They were also, because they were walking down the Strand, the shop owner said, I saw these kids. And they put their fingers on the window, and they were able to take the fingerprints off the window. Then there's the boot mark. There's the blue paint.
I was just going to say the blue paint.
That was on one of their clothing. Like, so all of these little bits and pieces, like, absolutely put them at the scene. It took their confession, and then they were able to move forward. Yes. So I know. So their identities were kept private.
I was just gonna ask.
But it was said that there were 2 10-year-olds who were being charged with the murder of James. And so when those police vans showed up, there was like a mob of people, like 300, 500 people standing outside calling for them to be hung, like calling for the death of these children. So here you are. There's these two children, and
I don't think their identity should have been hidden.
That personally, whenever someone
Why?
murders, I feel like.
But would you have kept them alive to kill them, or would you have killed them?
I wouldn't have kept them alive. I feel like, I'm not saying they deserved necessarily to be put to death, but I definitely don't feel like their identity should have been hidden. And I definitely feel like they should have had to pay for what they did.
That's always strange to me when they do hide the identities of the kids that murder. Like, I don't know. I get it.
Because there's vigilante justice. So if we're going to let our justice system decide on the punishment, we give that leeway to judges to make that decision. That's a part of our justice system here in the United States. I don't know what it's like there.
Yeah.
We vote for our judges and we trust that they're gonna do the bidding of the people, I guess. But if there was somebody here, like those 10-year-olds belong to parents, however shitty they are, but there might be people who actually cared. Like, either you're going to sentence them to death, sentence them to life in prison, sentence them to live until they're 18 to then be killed.
I definitely think they should have had life in prison at minimum. I don't necessarily think you should put them to death at 10.
Yeah.
But the fact that they knew what they were doing, planned it out, did it, and were so manipulative at 10 years old.
Yeah.
I can't imagine even releasing them. I just can't. Especially if I was a mother of the son that was murdered, I can't say that I would ever want to see them free in society again.
Is there ever a time, though, that when you're a child and you are making decisions under conditions not of your choosing?
Listen, I did not have a great childhood. We have discussed it. I have never said, you know what, I'm going to kidnap a kid today and throw him in front of a car.
Right. Like, that's never been a thought.
That's why I feel like it was John. Let's get a kid today. I haven't beaten one up in ages.
And to say that.
And I feel like Robert's brothers and him like beat each other up on a daily basis.
And sexually abused one another.
Yeah.
Had been sexually abused and physically abused by their father.
I don't feel like Robert necessarily would have wanted to kill the kid. It doesn't make. I get maybe beating him up because it's a cycle. When you're abused, you abuse. But I don't see why he would want to kill a child. I don't get why either one would want to kill a child. But I don't know.
So then you have the mob mentality. You have all these people who are throwing shit at the van, running up to the vans, like, kill the bastards. Like, they don't know who's in those vans, but they are like, they're out for blood. And so I think it's that mob mentality that like also makes me like, ugh, hold on. Yes, like it's just like, hold on, you guys. I think there's right. So there's like, this is when the true Libra comes out at me. Like, I can see both sides so clearly, and like, I would still love my children, however imperfect and however fucked up.
Parents didn't love them to begin with.
They didn't. And so what does that mean? Like, for those children, like, we just give up on those kids. I am going to get, don't at me. Do not at me on this episode. I know, I see, like, I don't fall so clearly on they should be punished for the rest of their lives or they should lose their lives. I don't fall on that side at all.
I don't care that they're 10. I feel like they committed a very heinous crime. They knew what they were doing. It wasn't an accident. If they were older, it wouldn't even be a question.
It wouldn't be a question.
And I feel like they have committed a more heinous crime than some of the people that have spent their life in prison. They are only 10.
And they're only 10. Yes. Yes, you're right. That's an astute observation. Yes, absolutely. Okay. So on the 22nd of February, 1993, the two boys stood trial at the South Sefton Magistrates Court in Bootle. They pled not guilty On November 24th, 1993, taking just 6 hours. So I guess they just went to lunch and then came back. Still too long.
Even eat.
I feel like it's too long. I feel like for me personally, I would have known how I felt very quickly. Like,
Except that they're 10.
I don't care that they're 10. I know that you care that they're 10, and lots of other people care that they're 10.
I don't know that other
care
people
that they're
care.
10.
I don't know that other people care that they're 10. I just watched that movie and was like, I don't know that I feel strongly. I don't know that I feel so I mean, and again, if it were my kid, I probably would either kill them myself.
Right. Like, let's just,
and I would be in prison. Or I would believe that the judge knew.
I feel like their parents should have been held accountable as well. I feel like their parents should have been on trial.
And you know what? That might solve my problem because
the middle ground.
If their parents were held accountable because they are 10, I wouldn't feel so strongly about the boys necessarily being punished as much if they were still getting help of some kind and not just let free. But the parents, I feel like, definitely should have been on trial for that because they're 10-year-old boys and they're just unsupervised, running around, raping and killing children and doing whatever the hell they want all day long, every day.
So following their sentencing, the two boys were sent to different youth offenders' homes. So this is not juvie, like we know juvie. Any child younger than 15 in England would not be sent to juvie. So this is like a children's home. They're on lockdown, but it's not the clink.
So they get like a little slap on the wrist.
It's still locked down. They're still taken away from their families. I understand that I'm just explaining to you. They're still on lock. They're not with their families. Okay. All right. They're 10. Okay. They would get mental health help. It's like every day.
Okay.
They would still go to school. They would learn things like cooking and art and stuff. They would basically get these kids. That this is the idea. Is they would get these kids to be able to be functioning members of society when they did leave. Because the judge ruled that they would serve a minimum of 8 years to get them to 18, but they would serve at the pleasure of the Queen. So, at the pleasure of Her Majesty, if she decided that she was if the Queen decided like 8 years is enough or not enough, and so it's at the pleasure with a minimum of 8 years. So they had to at least turn 18 in this setting. So this youth offenders home was, for all intents and purposes, for like petty thievery. That would be a good idea because you're like, okay, we're gonna get you to be better citizens when you leave here. Not necessarily murderers, right? Like this isn't who they probably usually have in these homes, but they're also 10. So you put them in jail, you put them in these youth offenders homes, you know that they're going to get out and either they become functioning members of society or they just become dregs of society and continue to cost society money.
How do you rehabilitate a 10-year-old murderer?
They're they're having mental health help every single day. They're going through I was abused. I don't know.
That's my question.
I don't know.
Because they sound like sociopaths almost. Like,
I mean,
but my thing is like they got taken from these and they got put in these homes and it was like better than their actual home life, which
right to me it's not like a punishment. But doesn't that say something? Doesn't that give you any like?
I mean, yeah, but
room for some kind of sympathy for these children? Like
no, because there's lots of people who come from very, very, very
and they don't
end
up murderers. Yes,
like I said, it would be a little bit more understanding if they just beat the kid up. Or if they took him back.
Right.
Or if they got in trouble for stealing. But they took him with the intention to kill him.
I'm not arguing.
I know you're not. I'm just like speaking like why I feel the way I feel about it.
This pissed a lot of people off. You were not alone. The entire country of England was like, what the fuck? These kids deserve to be in jail. There are people who are like, keep them alive till they're old enough and then kill them. And then there's people who were like, put them in jail for the rest of their lives. And then like, how much are you willing to pay to the state, for that? That's going to cost everybody money. In the United States, that would cost us money.
As a godmom, I guess that's the closest I can get. I can kind of see what you're saying about the kid part, but like she's saying, I think it messes me up because I'm like, it wasn't, and they even were gonna get a different child before that. Like it was gonna be a whole new baby before this, but but fortunately for her, she was like, "Hey, no, mom, he's with her. They were the two kids or whatever." So now it's like fast forward, they're like, "Okay, we couldn't get that one. Let's go to the like." Did demons possess these children? Because at this point, they had the mindset of like a 20-plus-year-old serial killer.
Right. And so like
Scary.
their behavior is totally the way that everybody feels about this. But it's sort of like, what if they're going to be let out of jail, do you let them be let out of jail as functioning adults, or do you send them to a place that's going to continue the abuse, that's going to make them basically non-functioning adults? Either way.
That kind of reminds me of the case they had, I think, in Israel. I think there's a story on Netflix about it. It's interesting if y'all never seen it. But they hide his identity to this day. Like, we still don't know what his name is, but he killed his whole entire family. And he was like a little tween teen. And he's back out. Apparently, from the rumor is he has a wife and kids. Like, he's...
Oh, wow.
So...
Some people are better than I am, I guess.
Some people. I mean, but I mean, it's you're just glad I wasn't on the jury. That would have not been for me. So the boys were released on the 22nd of June, 2001, after serving 8 years. To protect their identity, they were both given new identities, and no one would ever know where they were in the country. Like, it was also like there was an injunction, a worldwide injunction, that you could not. So the pictures that I showed you, those are the only pictures that we have of them as like from that time. There were no pictures. However, there are pictures that have come out about John Venables, but I'll get to that in a bit. But there were no other pictures that, like, if you released pictures, if you were in the UK and you put a picture out, you could get 2 years in prison. They couldn't keep another country from posting that.
I was just going to say, what if
so you got more time for posting their pictures than they
served 8 years.
Yeah, but these people would have gone to prison. They were in a child home.
Well, okay. They also aren't 10. Anyway, in the 8 years, it took John 5 years to fess up to what had happened. Robert actually really took to being in that environment. He worked the system, learned a lot. He's living now, it is said, he's living now with a partner somewhere in northern England, and he has changed his name. His partner knows who he is. However, in 2008, John was arrested after a drunken fight, and he was also cautioned. He was warned for possessing cocaine, which is like white privilege, but okay.
I'm dead.
And then, so a report claimed that on July 23rd, 2010, that John was back in prison at the age of 27. He admitted to downloading and distributing child sex abuse.
Lock him away. Now lock him away.
He was denied parole on the 27th of July, 2011, but released in 2013. But again, in 2017, he was arrested again for having child sex abuse images, and he was sentenced to 40 months behind bars. Now, understand, we've said this a million times, child abuse, rape are very underpunished worldwide. That's a global phenomenon I really just don't agree with. James's father launched a high court proceeding to try and remove John's entitlement to anonymity. The public had already seen some images of John, and they were posted everywhere. And he tried to ask that the taxpayers pay for plastic surgery because now everybody knew what he looked like.
Okay, you do the crime, your face is gonna do the time.
Play
please.
Stupid games, get stupid prizes.
Exactly. Like, Whoa, that's
So James's dad is, of course, and James's mom, they're fighting to ruin his chance. I'm sorry. So, on September 29th, 2020, John Venables was denied parole and told he will remain in prison for at least another 2 years before he can apply for parole again. So he is still in jail. Robert Thompson, however, like I said, lives with his boyfriend who knows who he really is, like understands what he did. He's reintegrated into society. He's built healthy relationships with the community that he lives in. He's openly gay, lives in a long-term relationship. Everybody knows who he is in his community, and they all are living in harmony, and they're fine because he's a contributing member to their society.
And this is
he
the one
has
that
not reoffended.
Like the worst parents, right?
Mm-hmm. So he has not reoffended. But they still believe that he was the mastermind, even though John is the one that continues to reoffend and reoffend.
I was gonna say, I think if that's like the
and then on Wednesday, this past June 10th, Denise got to sit down with the Deputy Prime Minister Dominic Raab to discuss her fears about John Venables' situation and her fears for the future. So that's all happening, and that is my story.
Oh man, that's John Venable. No, you're not getting plastic surgery. No, your face, you're here. Like, oh well, enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't have did the crime. Like, ew.
Yeah. Yep. And then, like, so if you look at pictures of him, he just looks like a piece of shit. Anyway,
I'm not
posting it.
I'm disgusted.
I'm not posting it, but he's a piece of shit. I don't feel sorry for him. I like to hear that Robert is actually like a functioning member of society, that he really he learned how to cook and, did all those things, and he just kind of became functioning. I know it's not what everybody wanted, but he's not reoffending. Now, I would say keep John in prison for the rest of his life. He's already proven that he can't be rehabilitated, and so just he's going to continue to hurt people. And that's why I think that he was the mastermind.
It makes sense, honestly, because of the simple fact, like, yeah, I mean, in reality, he didn't have the lesser of two evils as far as parents. He didn't really have like the worst parents.
He really didn't.
He actually had the better life out of the two. So I guess I can see why the other one's like, oh, harmony. I don't even want to disrupt this piece. Like, I'm gay. I'm out. I'm happy. Let me just keep it pushing. Yeah. But this guy, he's just like, I'm a lowlife and I'm going to stay there.
I think he always wanted attention, however he had to get it.
Still does.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Like, even as an adult, he's just like, hello.
Can anybody see me?
Yeah, because he was like, why are you on a cell phone when you're seeking anonymity? Like, just kind of don't be like out there like, oh, like I'm getting drunk and telling people who I am.
And like looking at child porn. I mean,
polar opposite of the other
child sexual abuse images.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, that's not a good way to stay low key. So
yeah, let me stay here. Like,
no, but anyway, that's it. That's the shitty story I have. Yay! I always have shitty stories.
I feel like it should be Toastmasters where you tell like a 30-minute story and then I tell a 30-minute funny story afterward. Like,
yeah, totally. That's what we used to do. Like, I would make everybody cry, then like, and here comes Ashley.
That was nuts. As a fan, I enjoyed this.
Well, we're glad someone does.
Ashley's like, I had to fucking hear that story. That sucks.
Oh my gosh.
Every week. Okay,
not every week, because some weeks is my week. So.
That's true. Okay, so what do you have for everybody?
Just like us, love us, share us, review us on your platforms. They're very important because the more you review us, the more people will see it and follow. You can leave us voicemails on our website. I did double check it. It is working, Glenn. So it is. Glenn. Yes, we love Glenn. We really do. We hope your marathon, and I'm putting that in quotations, marathon training is going well.
If your marathon was a marathon of drinking beer, I'm sure it was great.
But yes, just love us, share us. Thank you for following us. Thank you for listening. Send us story ideas on Facebook or wherever. We're on all the platforms, Instagram, TikTok.
And thank you to
Twitter.
our wizard producer.
Yes.
Dumbledore.
So much. Slay.
Nothing on him.
Slay.
And thank you for coming and being a guest. Very last minute.
That was so
So
awesome.
we're glad you could come.
When I got the text, I said, "Look me, yes, please."
I'm in.
Oh yeah, while I'm here, I brought you guys gifts. So I'm starting a clothing line. It says stone. You want to know why? Because it means stay thinking of new dreams.
Yes,
I love it.
And it's
Every
inspired by the
episode.
Powerpuff Girls. So you see
It does look
Blossom,
like
Bubbles, and
Oh,
Buttercup.
it's soft.
Yes, ladies. It's all yours.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Also, Kevin's missing, so you guys. Yes, she's gonna have to come on every episode now and just be Kevin.
I'll just come by, like drive by.
Jason will just add it.
Yeah, every time just save it. I don't know. We've totally gone off track.
Oh
I
my
don't know
God.
what my other things are. I have no idea what I'm doing next week.
We
I
love
thought
you.
I did. But
We love you. Thank you for listening. If you've made it this far, we
Yes.
know you love us. So come back next week. We'll see you there. Until then, please be kind to one another,
Please.
and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.